What's up, guys? So I am headed to the garden today because if you watched my last garden tour video, I told you guys that I would be getting in 2 more forever garden beds, and they have arrived. It's actually been a few days since they arrived, but it's been raining. I'm outside in between a rainstorm. I already spray painted them because if you're familiar, when I reached 10,000 subscribers, I did a giveaway with Forever Garden Beds where we gave away a bed where Crystal of 7 won the garden bed, and we got that sent out to her. But I spray painted my garden bed because my dream garden is to be filled with lovely colors all the time, even in the winter when everything's dead. So this is the first garden bed that we spray painted. I spray painted the same color of my gate here, which is turquoise. It kind of isn't looking turquoise on the camera, it's looking more blue, but it is a turquoise color. So with the next 2 beds that I got, I wanted it to be bright, fun colors again, and so I didn't show like a full tutorial of me spray painting them and putting them together, and because I already did that in a video. So I just showed quick clips of me spray painting them. Then my son put them together for me while I was making dinner and moved them to the garden. And then now we're outside in the garden because I'm going to be moving them to their permanent spot. So I already showed the coral color that I got, but this is the purple color that I chose, and I actually only bought 2 cans of each color because I remembered when I did my first bed that I thought it used 1.5 cans. So for the coral color, it took to full 2 cans, but this purple color, I got to 2 cans and I was not finished. So I went ahead yesterday and bought another can, but I did have my son put together the bed, and so now I've just spray painted it while it's already put together. So it's probably looking a little patchy right now because some parts are still wet, but I'm going to go ahead and get it moved over. I just love the sight of that. My dream is to have this whole area going down this fence line with colorful beds like this. I definitely need to get this done because weeds are taking over this area because I didn't mulch it because I knew that I wanted to have beds here, but that was a mistake. I should have definitely put cardboard down and mulched it, even because I knew I wasn't ready to get those beds set up. And so now there's weeds growing and taking over. Okay, so I have them in the line that I want, and I can just envision it now with, I don't know, maybe 4 more beds or 5 going down. Colorful, looking nice, having lovely plants hanging out of them. I think it looks so good. So right beside the entrance to the garden, we have this area that has lots of sticks and fallen leaves, branches. I'm just going to have my kids work on getting all of these things up and putting them into the bed. That's the same way that we did these beds where my roses are, arbor roses. I had them fill it with grass clippings, wood chips, and dry leaves, and then I put maybe 3 bags of soil on top. While they're working on that, I'm actually going to be working on a project inside the house really fast because in my last video I harvested lots of spicy peppers, and I have them sitting inside the dehydrator. So they've been sitting in the dehydrator. I also had them put in the peppers that weren't spicy, as well as any tomatoes, cherry tomatoes that were turned red, and they are actually super crispy now. What I've been doing with the spicy peppers and the cherry tomatoes is drying them, and well, I did save some cherry tomatoes, but this last 2 batches I've been drying them in the dehydrator, putting them inside of my Vitamix and grinding it up and then using it as a powder. And I have been using that powder. It's obviously mostly spicy peppers, but I have put some tomatoes in there and some non-spicy peppers just to make it not as spicy because we don't eat spice like that. I mean, I don't mind it, but my kids definitely, they think black pepper is spicy, so but it smells delicious and it tastes delicious as well. What's up, guys? So it's actually the next day. Yesterday I did not make it back outside before the rain, but this is how far my kids was able to fill these 2 Forever Garden beds. Also, if you're interested in getting one, I will have a link in the description box. It's always there for 10% off. I think these beds are $169 each, but they also have other sizes and variety of beds. So it's pretty, it's probably, I would say, 3/4 of the way high, but I still need it to be higher. I want it to fill to the top because once I add in the soil, it will drop down significantly. So I have these tomatoes that I started from seed. They were all shorter day varieties. I think all of them were shorter than maybe 75 days, I believe. And I started to plant one here in this empty bed. This is where we had onions, and then we turned it into watermelon and tomatoes, and I pulled all of those out, and I planted one, but then I never got to finish the rest. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. I had brought out some bone meal and blood meal with me and had it in this jar, and it's rained on it. And if you've never smelled blood meal after it's been soaked and wet, it smells disgusting. So it's really gross. But I brought out some more because bone meal and blood meal is what I put in all of my beds at the beginning when we first built them, and then I've been using it throughout as I transplant and stuff like that. I also have a list of the bone meal and blood meal that I use in the description box if you guys are interested. So I'm going to get planting the rest of these tomato plants. So this one, you can see those leaves died, but I'll just bury it as deep as I can, and that is a Rutgers. And these will be the first tomatoes that I know what the varieties are, because I actually bought a garden marker, because before I was using permanent marker and the rain would just wash it away. So let's get started. So I didn't actually take out the roots of the plants that were here. As you can see, I chopped them and left the roots inside because these beds were built as no dig beds, which means that I just laid down cardboard and then added some soil on top, and I will continue to add soil on top. So the soil isn't that deep, but I can see that it is starting to get softer than it was, which is nice. And I'm just planting the tomatoes as deep as the ground allows me to. When I hit hard ground, that's when I stop. I have a tomato off to the side here. You can't see it, it's not in the view, but I left one tomato still hanging on in here. I'm just taking out these weeds because it still looked pretty healthy, and so I'm going to plant around that one. But this last tomato plant is a Chadwick cherry, and it has 3 plants in here. And so what I'm going to do is try and just break them apart and then plant all 3 of them separately and hope they survive. It is supposed to rain today, so I'm hoping that the rain comes and I don't have to water these in, because I think that would be the biggest hurdle, is the roots getting dried by transplanting them into, the soil's really wet here. So here's to hoping all 3 of these cherry tomatoes make it. Tomatoes are fairly easy to separate, but I should have done this when they were smaller. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I've gotten all of the tomato plants in here. This is the one that I was talking about that I left. So I don't know if it'll do anything, but I left it in here because the new growth looked pretty good. But as you can see, it's coming from this big stem right here. So that's the one I left. And on the other side, I brought out these seeds because it is about to rain and I can feel the drips already. And on the other side, I'm thinking about planting some summer squash. So we have like these zucchini, not cucuzi, I already planted that. But these different types of squash. I know we have zucchini in here. Maybe I'll plant some zucchini and Alexandria, early prolific straight neck, this golden one. So I have dark green zucchini and this gray zucchini. So maybe I'll just go ahead and plant this whole bed on the opposite side of the tomatoes with the different varieties of zucchini. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 different kinds. This bed is I think 22 feet long, and so I'm thinking if I have 6 varieties and I plant 2 of each, that's about 12. It would probably give them about 2 feet each, I'm guessing. I don't know. I'll plant them in a zigzag, and we'll see. I'm only going to plant 1 seed per hole, and if one germinates and the other one doesn't, that's completely fine. I'm not going to thin them or anything like that, and just want to get something planted because to combat with the weeds, because the weeds definitely want to grow in here. So I'm just going to move the mulch to the side, plant the seed. That one was the gazelle. I'm using this as my planters. The next one I'll do is, or this markers, this gray one. And just like that, I have this whole bed filled with our second crop, second waves, and I'm so happy. A whole bed done. Sometimes I find it very hard to stay on task with what I'm doing because my mind is thinking about all the things that need to be done in the garden, and so I found it helpful most of the time when I just work on one thing and tell myself I can't move until I finish that project, even though in my brain I want to do a variety of things. And so definitely something I need to work on, but I'm so glad to have this bed completely filled out with new seeds and transplants. I had already started some, like this one is a cocozelle, and this one's a white scallop, and I put them in this bed because this bed, no matter how much I weed it, there are perennials in here. I know lilies in here, but there's other plants in here too that I can't remember their name, but they're not blooming right now, and the weeds just keep taking over. I've weeded this bed, I've tried to mulch it, and these weeds are just keep coming back. I'm gonna have to move my green stalk because right here at the entrance of the gate, it goes down, and so this isn't even. So I'm gonna probably move it to the beginning of that trellis right there where it's even, but for right now this is where it is. My husband needs to move it. I brought up this tomato plant with me. It's a tiny Tim, so it's a dwarf variety, and I'm going to plant it in the bottom of this green stalk right here. I, as you can see, transplanted lots of herbs and strawberry plants, and I think all of them have survived except for maybe 2 strawberries are showing no living signs, but for the most part everything is doing good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tiny Tim tomato planted in here. That's perfect. So that will grow in there with these herbs and strawberries. My daughters have finished school, so now they're working on getting some wood chips from over there to finish filling these beds. I forgot to tell you guys, we got our first duck egg a few days ago. I'll insert a picture. We were so happy, but we haven't got one since. I don't remember how often ducks are supposed to lay eggs, but we've got the Khaki Campbell, the Pekin, and the Cayuga ducks. And I've gotten, because I wanted it to go along with my egg basket, my colorful egg basket, and I know that, I think it's the Cayuga duck, lays the dark, like blackish grayish egg, which I think is so beautiful. We have our ducks in our future orchard area because that's where their permanent home would be, and that's where I'm going to put the rest of our fruit trees, but I haven't yet because we need a fence. And for all you goat lovers, here are the baby goats and mama goats. The babies are still standoffish, mostly. This one's Gracie and Lucy. Lucy has finally got big enough to not fit through these squares. Look, the grass is green on the other side. Okay guys, it is getting hot. The sun has came out finally from behind the clouds. I think it's about lunchtime, so I'm going to head in and make some lunch and probably get ready for dinner. So thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.